Like most cities, the residents of Vienna rely on 21st century sanitation technology. They live with the peace of mind that their water is potable, that the sewage system functions, and that the streets will be cleaned and trash will be disposed of. This current urban ecosystem is the product of centuries of progress, regression, and hard-won policy to improve the lives of Viennese citizens. Innovators created the first modern sewer systems, the first personal sanitation theories of hand washing, and have worked hard to combat and prevent plagues to this day.
So in 100 AD, Roman forces established Vienna as a military fortress, military outpost, right? And they brought their knowledge of irrigation and canals to Vienna. So here's an example of one of these canals, and this is an aqueduct actually. So this is how they irrigated water long distances. And yeah, this shows how early that Vienna actually had canal systems. But then in 400, when the Roman Empire left the area, they eventually lost it, and there was a big dark age. It took several hundred years to regain the sanitation practices that the Romans had pioneered. During the sanitation dark age, quality of life decreased massively, and life became vastly different from the once golden Roman era. This lack of sanitation reached its peak when the bubonic plague first hit in the mid-14th century. The Holy Roman Empire lost many of its subjects, particularly in Austria. The Black Plague hit Austria especially hard, killing 1/3 of its population. The sanitation dark age lasted until the 14th century, when the Habsburgs and the city of Vienna started investing in subterranean tunnels which led to open areas. However, this was not enough to stop the Great Plague of Vienna in 1679. At the time, Vienna had no real drainage or sewage system. Thus, the city was incredibly vulnerable to the bubonic plague once again. 76,000 people were killed. However, from this time of great strife came incredible advances in medicine, such as the development of hospitals and clinics for the population of Vienna. The Great Plague of Vienna was devastating, but because of advances in medicine, it set the city up for success in the coming centuries. Okay, so located here on the ground is the plague column, right? Plague column erected in 1694 after Emperor Leopold I made a votive offering after the Great Plague of Vienna. So during this plague, thousands of people died. And Leopold basically had to flee Vienna. And in his fleeing Vienna, he made a prayer to God saying, "If you stop this plague, I'll build a big column for you." So that's the result of this, right? And there's three distinct layers to this column. On the bottom layer represents mankind, like the crest of the different kingdoms. So this is Leopold's section. To the middle section is the angels. And with the angels, it's kind of like, not an intercessor, but the intermediate level between man and God. At the very top is God. God, the Trinity, and the Holy Spirit. So on each side, it's dedicated to each different part of the Trinity. So on this side, you can see the Kingdom of Hungary, and that is dedicated to Jesus the Son. On the west side over there, that has the royal sigil of the Holy Roman Empire, and that is dedicated to God the Father. And then on the north side right here, this part is dedicated to the Holy Spirit. Adorned with gold, a lot of very fancy Latin, and yeah.
So this is a piece of the canal from the 19th century. During this time period, a lot of Austrians would dump human waste into various bodies of water and channels. Then in 1830, there's an unprecedented ice function that destroyed parts of the Danube, and that led to a cholera outbreak where about 2,000 Austrians died. Then, 20 years later, the Viennese government system in power, they decided to update their different forms of canals and their channels, but they completely covered the ones from earlier in the century. Then, after the city walls were taken down, they decided to start increasing the amount of urbanization and modernization in the cities, and infrastructure was able to really take off. From there, they started to increase the amount of sewers connected and along the Danube. and they were able to have a much cleaner and safer sewer system just until about World War II. So this painting is showing people drinking from public drinking fountains. There were a lot of drinking fountains in the 1800s, but it led to cholera and typhoid outbreaks. And this painting is showing before there was clean drinking water, which came from the Alps in 1873.
The sewer system was greatly expanded after the cholera outbreak, but the developments began to slow at the start of the First World War and throughout the Great Depression. In the 1930s, criminals would hide in Vienna's sewers. In turn, the Viennese police dedicated a section of their department called the Special Canal Brigade to monitor the sewers. The police would patrol the sewers in search of criminals, navigating the tight canals with only their flashlights. There were non-criminals in the sewers as well, who were often referred to as tramps. Tramps were homeless and would search throughout the sewers for various treasures and scraps that they could sell to make their living. They were often stopped and searched by police, but would usually be allowed to carry on. Depicting Vienna immediately after the Second World War, Carol Reed's The Third Man famously includes the city's sewers as an action set piece. The venerable Orson Welles, playing the sly criminal Harry Lime, attempts to escape the authorities using the sewer system. This is a reference to the real-life criminals who are known to utilize the sewer system of Vienna.
In the 1960s, waste incineration began in Austria. The Spitalau in Vienna's 9th district began working in 1971. The Spitalau was initially created to provide Vienna's general hospital with air conditioning, and it was successful in this until a massive fire in 1987. It was not until after the fire that the Spitalau became known for both being an incineration plant and a piece of art. It is striking because it has various colors and a gold crown near the top. From the beginning, the Spitalau has been a piece of political art, as Hundertwasser, who was a known environmentalist, was commissioned to design it after the reconstruction. Hundertwasser's goal was to have the Spitalau be a, quote, true memorial for a more beautiful world without waste. As an art piece, the Spitalau shows the intersections between ecology and modern machinery. Today, the Spitalau incinerates a third of the waste in its boroughs, while simultaneously providing energy for local hospitals, universities, and 60,000 homes. It should be noted that there are controversies given the potential drawbacks of incineration, such as pollution and carbon emission. However, given the size and the impact of the Spitalau, its carbon emissions are reasonably low and efficient. Over time, these achievements have been praised across the world, with Japan following a similar suit. To end on a positive note, we wanted to briefly go over the cleanliness of the Danube. The Danube cleanliness was interesting to us because of how it compares to other European waterways like the Seine in Paris, which has a reputation for being relatively dirty, and our experience with the Danube was really different. The entirety of the Danube is not necessarily clean due to waste still being dumped, agricultural runoff, pesticides, and other smaller but contributing factors. That being said, areas that are more contaminated are generally constrained into specific areas along the river. Separately, there are very clean parts of the Danube, such as a section referred to as the Old Danube. This section is very safe due to various factors. The first and most notable is Vienna's efficient sewer system, as we spoke about earlier. These sewers prevent wastewater from entering the Danube, and this prevents what could and has been a significant burden in having to clean the river. Interestingly, the fall of the Soviet Union and the following political tensions along the Danube meant that there was little care for maintaining a healthy river. Additionally, industrialization was rampant, and the populations were increasing, which further polluted the river and led to various dead zones. However, with the rise of the EU and their regulations regarding water quality, genuine action has been taken to restore the lost parts of the Danube. The Danube is partially self-sustained through the various species of plants that live within the river. These aquatic macrophytes are natural purifiers, and they keep the water oxygenated and take in excess nutrients. Overall, the city of Vienna does its best to ensure that at least some parts of the Danube are accessible for public swimming. During our time in Vienna, we made sure to take advantage of this clean water, and we hosted a swim competition towards the end of our trip.
Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
From the sewers of the original Roman fort to the horrors of the Black Plague, cholera outbreaks, 2 world wars, and the recent COVID-19 pandemic, Vienna's sanitation has become more resilient and continues to evolve. The sewers, the Danube River, and the Spitlau incineration plant are all icons of the city. Vienna is considered one of the cleanest cities in Europe, with a bright and healthy future ahead.